Hi guys, Chris Solari here from the Detroit Free Press, along with Shawn Windsor, our sports columnist, and Lansing State Journal sports columnist Graham Couch. Michigan State escaped 38-31 against Utah State in the opener Friday night here at Spartan Stadium. And guys, I think the key that Mark D'Antonio talked about, and I think what we saw, were the mistakes that Michigan State made that allowed this game to remain close for as long as it did.
Yeah, I mean, there were turnovers, which made a big deal.
One of them for 6 points the other way.
The other thing, that Michigan State unable to get any sort of consistent running game for most of the night, and no push up front. And I think that's got to be a real concern moving forward, because if you really want to compete for a college football playoff spot, and I mean, you think about how they beat Ohio State years ago on the road when they didn't have Connor Cook. That was a line that manhandle the Buckeyes really, and this line looks a long way from those capabilities.
Yeah, played without starting left tackle Luke Campbell, who
Cole Chewins,
excuse me. Luke Campbell slid into his spot, but that's one guy on a big line, and that they were ready for this, but it didn't seem to get any kind of consistency. I think they ran for 170 yards, but a lot of that came on option plays. A lot of that came late in the game. Shawn, I guess what's your biggest takeaway from tonight?
Well, Coach Cole Chewins, I'm sure, will make some difference.
Yeah.
And Graham, you talked about the Ohio State game a few years ago. You're absolutely right, but that wasn't just the offensive line that night. That defensive line had several next level difference makers on it too. So what was curious to me in watching the game and listening to Mark D'Antonio afterwards, he talked about the things they can correct. You hear this all the time, right? Football coaches love to use the word, we can correct this, we can fix this. Mostly it's the word correct. But here's my question to you guys. How much of this can they correct, and how much of it is it because it's not just the push up the middle, it was the protection on Lewerke's blind side in particular, maybe Cole Chewins, and then also defensively, there was no push on the edge at all.
Yeah, well, I do think some of that had to do with how quick the tempo was for Utah State and what they did with quarterback Jordan Love and rolling him out away from pressure. And I thought Michigan State got there. I thought Jacob Panashuk, Kari Willis' interception was basically Jacob Panashuk's interception because he hit Love on the throw.
It was a nice little stunt.
They got pressure.
They had one sack though, right?
2 sacks. They finished with 2 sacks.
That's right.
But they also got there, and I think this is, to me, I think the bigger thing that you need to see is this didn't look like the same cohesion that the middle and edge of that defense had in the secondary back in December when they played Washington State, and a similar team that would come up to the line. I think that Michigan State maybe got caught a little flat-footed, but I do think some of the mistakes they can fix, the penalties in particular.
But you know who beat them underneath last year was Northwestern, and that's what happened a little bit here. So you see some of the similarities. In terms of pass protection, that was a real strength of the team last year, other than the Ohio State game. So I do think the personnel being much the same, that is something they can fix.
The Chewins will help that.
Yeah, the Chewins will help that. But the run part of it, that's the push, right? Can you get that? Is that something these guys have within them against the next level team? And we're going to find that out over the next few weeks.
Well, sorry, Chris. Chris, right? Yeah. So it's the push on both sides, right?
Right.
In a sense, and those were issues last year. Even in Washington State's not very good.
We can't leave this without talking about the performance of Brian Lewerke. Lewerke throws a pick 6 where he telegraphed the pass and it gets run back 40 yards for a touchdown. Has a fumble / pass that was not ruled a pass. It was a really confusing play. I'm watching a couple of the replays. One from behind, it didn't look like it was thrown anybody, but then he comes in the last drive, and he's the exact same guy you saw last year, which allows Michigan State to win these close games. It's something that they were able to do a year ago.
They'll be fine in the passing game if they can protect him. The thing that would make them dynamic offensively, though, if they can't run the football, teams know it, and it limits them. They're still going to be good at times. Well, those receivers are terrific. They made some plays late in the game. You're going to make plays there, and that group may get in a rhythm. But if you could also run the ball 5, 6, 7 yards at a time
between the tackles, that's the important thing.
You'd be a really electrifying offense, and right now you're limited if you can't.
One quick, last thought on this whole notion, this whole idea. How many teams can you think off the top of your head? Not that we need to get into a big debate here, that just can run the ball without setting up with a pass.
But they have the pass.
But almost none. So what I'm saying is, yes, there was no push up the middle, but there was a little bit of that, I hate to use this word, there's a little bit of that stubbornness. Maybe they're holding back because they want to save some of what they're going to do later in the season. But even a couple of years ago when they had all that success running, it was because Connor Cook was throwing to some degree. And when they started letting him throw on first down, right, instead of just running first and second down.
Yep.
I mean, so that it's up to them to sort of figure this out too. It's not just the push.
Yeah, and Lewerke was great on third downs, and Michigan State's offense was great on third down. So there are things, there are positives to take away from this game, but obviously the close score, they count as one, as Mark D'Antonio said.
And here's the other thing, we don't know what Utah State is. You never know in these openers. Like, I mean, Wyoming in their league looked amazing in week 1. Utah State, Wyoming could be 2 11-0 football teams playing in a few weeks, so they could be 2 5-6 football
Well, they won't
teams.
be 11-0.
They gave Wisconsin a game a little
Yeah.
bit last year.
Yeah.
They did.
Well, it fell apart, but this is a younger team. But they have in the past. They played Wisconsin tough. This is a program that's had a lot of these sort of
Right.
successes.
All right, well, we got to get going here. It's a long weekend ahead, a lot of content coming. Check out freak.com and lsj.com for a lot more. Thanks for watching.